live coverage of the 45th president and GOP frontrunner Donald Trump's arraignment in Washington, D.C. following the latest sham indictment, this time surrounding the events of January 6th. We'll bring you all the latest throughout the show, and I'll be following a live chat with you and responding to your questions and your comments, because this is a dark day for anyone who cares about equal justice and the rule of law in this country. Today, we will expose the corrupt political swamp like never before, as the dark and twisted forces inside our own government are unleashing the most egregious election interference scheme in American history to try and stop the MAGA movement and to keep Donald Trump out of the White House. And we have all-star guests to break it all down. Article 3 Project founder, your favorite lawyer, Mike Davis is here, along with former Alaska Governor Sarah Palin. Now look at your screen. The 45th president and 2024 GOP frontrunner is being arraigned in Washington, D.C. following yet another baseless indictment from Jack Smith over the events of January 6th. The charges include conspiracy to defraud the United States, conspiracy to obstruct an official proceeding, obstruction of an official proceeding, and conspiracy against rights. But a look through the indictment shows nothing more than an attempt to stomp on President Trump's First Amendment rights and to criminalize political differences in the most shameful way possible. But for Jack Smith, Merrick Garland, and Joe Biden, the facts of the law, well, they don't matter at all. They're irrelevant. Given the prosecutor, the judge, and the most far-left jury pool in the country, the actual facts and the law will be completely irrelevant. Like we always say, there's one rule for Democrats and one rule for the rest of us. Because if challenging the election results is all of a sudden a crime, then get the handcuffs out for pretty much every major Democrat. Here's a quick trip down memory lane.
Campaign, you can even become the nominee, and you can have the election stolen from you.
How can you win with Russian interference, though?
That's the real
what I'm
thing.
scared about in 2020.
But rightly.
Because I think he's an illegitimate president that didn't really win. So how do you fight against that in 2020?
You are absolutely right.
He's an illegitimate president in my mind.
Would you be my vice presidential candidate? Folks, look, I absolutely agree.
Trump didn't actually win the election in 2016. He lost the election, and he was put in office because the Russians interfered.
Trump knows he's an illegitimate president.
The president-elect, although legally elected, is not legitimate.
I don't see the president-elect as a legitimate president.
You said you believe that Russia's interference altered the outcome of the election.
I do.
And meanwhile, while Joe Biden bakes on the beach like a lobster in Delaware, the corruption from Hunter Biden remains in full view, because Hunter's former business partner and BFF, Devon Archer, sat down with Tucker Carlson and confirmed that, yes, Joe Biden was well aware of his son's business dealings. Take a look.
Vice President knew that there were Hunter's business associates in the room.
Yeah, I think I could definitively say at particular dinners or meetings, he knew there were business associates, and or if I was there, I was a business associate too.
Yeah.
So I think, or if, any of the other colleagues from the DC office or the New York office were there. So yeah, at times there were. From the, to be, completely clear on the calls, I don't know if it was an orchestrated call in or not. It certainly was powerful though, because, if you're sitting with a foreign business person and you hear the vice president's voice, that's prize enough. I mean, that's pretty impactful stuff.
So there you have it, in his own words. Proving Joe Biden has been lying again and again about having no knowledge or involvement in Hunter's shady foreign dealings. And here to react to all of this and big breaking news, Article 3 Project founder, former chief counsel for nominations of the State Judiciary Committee, your favorite lawyer, Mike Davis is back with us. Mike, thanks for being on the program. A lot going on today. Just first, if I can get your reaction to today's arraignment, take us through the indictment, weaknesses, strengths, if any, the statutes at play, and whether or not you think this is reckless. I know you predicted we'd see this exact type of multi-front lawfare.
Yeah, Kimberly, we've been talking about this for a year since the Mar-a-Lago raid last August. And this is Democrat lawfare to take out President Trump because they fear they can't beat him in November 2024. It started with Alvin Bragg, the Manhattan DA, Soros-funded Manhattan DA, indicting President Trump, the first time a former president has been indicted for the non-crime of a businessman settling a nuisance claim. And then we saw Jack Smith indict President Trump for the non-crime of a former president having his presidential records, which is allowed by the Presidential Records Act. And now Jack Smith, all driven by Merrick Garland and Joe Biden, they're indicting President Trump for the non-crime of objecting to a presidential election, which is only illegal in third world Marxist hellholes. That's Democrats objected to Republican presidential wins in 1968, 2000, 2004, 2016. They weren't charged with anything, and they should not be, because that is protected by the Electoral Count Act of 1887. Twisting arms politically is also protected by the First Amendment. You're going to see Fulton County, Georgia, DA Fannie Willis likely this month also charge President Trump for non-crimes related to January 6th. And finally, you saw Tish James, the New York Attorney General, charging Trump for fraud, for the non-fraud of paying back sophisticated banks in full with interest. This is lawfare to try to take out President Trump.
And what exactly, just take some of the viewers and listeners through, what exactly is obstruction of an official proceeding? When animal rights protesters interrupt a congressional hearing, we don't usually see prosecutions for this type of thing.
Yeah, I ran Justice Kavanaugh's Supreme Court confirmation when I was the chief counsel for nominations on the Senate Judiciary Committee. The proceedings were interrupted for the first 8 minutes, and then every few minutes after that. We did not pursue felony charges against those people. What Jack Smith is trying to do here is he's trying to take an election challenge, which is routine, and try to turn it into a felony to disqualify President Trump from running for office. And that is what you do in Zimbabwe, right? You don't do that in the United States of America. Jack Smith is a political hitman. He is a legal Scud missile who Democrats send in to take out Republican presidential candidates, like Jack Smith did with former Virginia Governor Bob McDonnell when he took him out before the 2016 presidential race, when McDonnell could have been a presidential or vice presidential candidate. The Supreme Court reversed Jack Smith 8-0. It would have been 9-0, but Justice Scalia died, but it was several years after the fact. That's the play they're running now. They don't care what happens with the Supreme Court several years from now. They want to take out President Trump for November 7th, 2024. Right.
That's what this is all about. And, many people are talking about, with the D.C. jury, what exactly, are the options here? And can President Trump even get a fair trial in that venue? What are some of the early motions that they can file, on his behalf in his defense?
Yeah, so we have a Garland special counsel. We have an Obama judge who is a left-wing radical who has been unduly harsh on January 6 protesters. And then we have a 95% D.C. Democrat jury pool and 99% Trump deranged. I might be the only Trump supporter left in Washington, D.C. There is no chance President Trump is going to get a fair trial in Washington, D.C. He's going to be found guilty. He's going to be convicted. The D.C. Circuit, which is Obama stacked, will affirm the conviction, and it will take the Supreme Court reversing this probably after the November 2024 presidential election. And that's the play here. Biden, Obama too, really, Biden, Garland, Jack Smith, they don't care about the legal consequences. They care about the political consequences.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And, we see this. It's just no coincidence that it's one thing after the next to cover up what's going on. Anytime there's a development or evidence that comes out about Hunter Biden or Joe Biden, ta-da, surprise, they go ahead and throw out something else against Trump.
Yeah, and they don't even hide it. They literally do it the next day. Hunter Biden gets caught with smoking gun evidence that he was the bag man for the Biden crime family, took up to $40 million that House Oversight Chairman James Comer has been able to locate so far corruptly from China, from Ukraine, from Romania. Who knows where else they've taken money? The president of the United States is clearly compromised, and they are covering this. Merrick Garland is covering this up with this lawfare against Trump.
Yeah, it's really disgraceful. But I'll tell you, and you know, Trump put out a truth saying, all I need is one more indictment to ensure I'm going to win the election, and that's a pretty savage response by him. And I think it's kind of true. It's backfiring in spectacular fashion. People are so frustrated. It's becoming ridiculous. It's one indictment after the next. It's very clear what they're trying to do. And at the same time, cover up and bury the stuff with Hunter and Joe Biden so that news and facts and actual real evidence doesn't breathe. Let's talk about the next steps for House Republicans. I know you tweeted about an appropriations rider relating to federal funding for these sort of investigations. Can you explain more about this? And is this really, you know, the time for House Republicans to impeach?
It is. I always say that the D.C. swamp is the only place on the planet where the reptiles lack backbones. And that has always been the case. House Republicans need to find their backbones right now, because this is so much bigger than President Trump. If these Republicans think that these Marxist Democrats are going away, if President Trump is going away, they are crazy. Just go read 100 years of Marxist history with 100 million deaths. These people are not going away. And I'll say what the House Republicans need to do. They need to start issuing subpoenas now for documents, for oversight hearings, move forward with impeachment on both Biden for his corruption and Garland for covering up for his boss. And then this appropriation rider. Here's the rider. No federal funds may be used for the prosecution of any major presidential candidate on or before November 7th, 2024. Meaning, if Jack Smith wants to pursue this, if Merrick Garland wants to pursue this unprecedented lawfare against a former president and the leading presidential candidate, they can do it after the presidential election. They waited 30 months to bring these charges. There's no hurry now. And I would say this, why don't they want the American people to decide this election? Why do they think that a Garland prosecutor, a DC prosecutor, a DC judge, and a DC jury should decide the next presidential election? Hell no. House Republicans need to step up.
Yeah, they need to step up and shut it down. The American people are watching. They're waiting. They're paying attention. They want to see some action done, because this is outrageous. But they can't just sit there, you know, be like passerby, stand by. Okay, let's just see what happens here. In terms of the timeline with this, a lot of people are really wondering, you know, is this going to, you know, get through before 2024? I
seriously doubt it.
Yeah, I think so
too. This case is a legal. It is stupid on its face legally. Factually, it is very complicated. You have a lot of witnesses. You're going to have a lot of documents. There's no chance they're going to get through this case before the presidential election. This is purely about election interference. Jack Smith.
And smearing him.
Yeah, smearing him. Jack Smith is pretending like he wants to have a speedy trial. He doesn't. He wants to drag this out. He'll have a superseding indictment. He'll name the 6 co-conspirators or alleged co-conspirators. He'll add charges like seditious conspiracy. He'll do all this when bad news comes out on Biden, and he'll start
one by one.
Yep, that's exactly right.
So let me ask you this: in terms of, you know, the exposure, if, for example, you know, by some kangaroo court, the president is convicted of any of this, because I think you and I agree this should be thrown out on a motion to dismiss. I mean, for factually insufficient evidence, but. What do you think about that? How much time realistically are we looking at, you know, and do you think then if there was convictions, sentencing, take us through the actual impact and the pathway?
Yeah, I mean, the pathway is we have the arraignment today. You're going to have discovery. You're going to have motions practice where you're trying to get this thing kicked on the motions. You're going to have subpoenas issued. You're going to have pretrial hearings. I mean, this is at least going to take a year to get to a plausible trial date, but that's not even going to be plausible, because remember, we have Alvin Bragg's trial, we have Jack Smith's trial down in Florida, you're going to have Fani Willis's trial down in Georgia, you're going to have a fraud civil trial maybe against Trump for up with Tish James in New York. This is lawfare to try to hobble the Trump political operation, the Trump presidency.
And the momentum, but he keeps gaining, momentum on this. If people see it, they see what's happening here. It's absolutely outrageous. I mean, the Clintons can do whatever they want, the Obamas, the Bidens, but, all laser sights are focused, on President Trump. But the exposure here in terms of the potential sentencing is quite extreme.
Yeah, I mean, they're looking at conspiracy against rights. We're talking decades in prison if this D.C. judge, this Obama judge, and this Trump-deranged D.C. jury finds him guilty and convicts him, which they very well could be. Look, at the end of the day, Kimberly, how this is going to be resolved, this is going to be resolved on November 7th, 2024, when the American people vote to put President Trump back in the White House, and then this all goes away.
And then what? Realistically, how does it go away? If he's convicted, he pardons himself, because there's a lot of speculation about this.
You can have his acting attorney general motion to dismiss with prejudice, pardon, whatever the hell it takes. This is lawfare. People see right through this. They know this is political. The American people, if you look at the polling, they know this is political. They know this is nonsense. This is not legitimate. Jack Smith has a track record for being a political hitman. This is not going to fly with the American people, and we need to make sure that we stay strong with President Trump.
Absolutely. God bless. Well, thank you for that expert analysis, Mike Davis. Always a pleasure to have you on the program. Can't wait to have you back on again very soon. And coming up, we have former Alaska Governor Sarah Palin, who is fired up to be able to come and talk about this and what is going on with these Democrats trying to destroy President Trump.
Kimberly, we have breaking news.
Breaking news, yep.
Donald Trump pleads not guilty to federal conspiracy charges at the federal courthouse in Washington, D.C. Watching the comments, everyone's saying almost the same thing. I know you're watching them.
Yep.
This is going to put him back in the White House.
That's the consensus we have, and there you go. This is breaking news here on Rumble. President Trump, the 45th President of the United States, has pled not guilty to these federal charges surrounding the incidents and acts that occurred on January 6th. You can see there the camera angles, etc. The people, some of them holding signs, and this is outside of that courthouse in D.C., and that's a live shot from C-SPAN. You never thought you'd see this day in this country where we would have this kind of nonsense going on and the weaponization of the justice system, as Mike Davis and I were just discussing. And whether it was President Trump having to plead not guilty, being arraigned in Miami on one Jack Smith case with the documents and 38 plus counts, and now here in D.C., where you can bet he would not be able to get a fair trial, with these weaponized judges and the jury, potential jury panels that are there. So it's very discouraging. And I see right now that, President Trump, he left Bedminster this morning, New Jersey, his home, to show up and come there. It seems, and we've talked to him, he's just very, very strong about this. He is not stressed about this. He is resolute in his determination and resolve to push through this and to stand strong. He said it's an honor to do so because he is doing it for you. So make sure to like and subscribe so you never miss any of these major interviews, any of these major breaking news developments right here on Rumble, where you can get all the facts and all the evidence, and it is not censored or twisted. And it's all of you who have made this show possible and other shows on Rumble, along with our amazing sponsors. So be sure to go check out the great folks over at Goldco. Gold and silver can protect your retirement savings from inflation and dollar devaluation. And look, we see all the economic warning signs. We see banks collapsing. We see reckless spending. I want you to be ready, because I'm ready. And with Goldco, you can take action to secure and stabilize your portfolio. Roll over your 401k or your IRA into precious metals and safeguard your savings tax and penalty free. From precious metals, IRAs, to direct purchases of gold and silver, Goldco has helped thousands of Americans place over $2 billion in gold and silver. And when you open up a qualifying gold IRA today, you get up to $10,000 in free silver, okay? So go to kimsmetals.com to learn more. That's kimsmetals.com. Go and get that 10K in free silver. I'm going to tell you, that's a good way to make this day positive. And I also want to bring you a message from Patriot Lifestyle where you can save more and spend less on a whole host of different benefits, from non-insurance healthcare benefits, your life. And I'm following the chat live here and looking. I've been reading your comments. One viewer says, interfere in the election, jail your opponent. Nothing to see here, folks. Yeah, exactly. Now, as we continue with our top story, even some rhino Republicans are signaling their support for the indictment against Donald Trump. For example, just as the news of the indictment broke, Alaska Senator Lisa Murkowski tweeted, quote, in early 2021, I voted to impeach former President Trump based on clear evidence that he attempted to overturn the 2020 election after losing it. So it's not just Democrats. It's not just the deep state. Even swamp-backed Republicans are trying to legitimize these attacks on the rule of law. Joining me now for reaction, former Alaska Governor, America First warrior, and former vice presidential nominee, Sarah Palin. Thank you for being on the program. Okay, I think we have a little bit of an audio problem. Okay, Sarah, so I just want to get your reaction to Senator Lisa Murkowski's comments, supporting the indictment. It's just so shameful.
We'll work on those audio issues. Go back to the chat for a second.
Okay, we'll work on those audio issues. 1 second, Governor Palin, we're going to work on that audio connection and we'll go back to the chat.
I know we're both following it. One user, Flower1776, Murkowski is a full-fledged rhino.
Okay, so Murkowski is a full-fledged rhino. Fact check true. Zero Pinocchios on that one. But the point really is that you see people that are deep state and swamp backed, whether it's rhino Republicans, liberal Democrats, people who really just have it all out to go against President Trump. And that's what we see. And Jack Smith, who has zero credibility, has been engaging in this behavior, weaponizing, using lawfare against people who are his enemies or political opponents that they literally put him on to try to destroy, like they're doing with President Trump. It's disturbing, to say the least. And, quite honestly, it's, they're very focused, laser focused on anything having to do with the MAGA movement, the America First movement. And the corrupt bureaucrats, the government officials and politicians in Washington are absolutely terrified of Donald Trump. They are terrified that he is going to get back in 2024 on November 7th. And their worst nightmares is actually coming true. Because as we've seen, his momentum is building. He's up in Iowa and New Hampshire and other key and crucial swing states. And he is actually really just marching forward with more donations coming in and gaining more support, even more so than he had in 2016 and in 2020.
And follow up on that, it says the Union Party is real, which is what we've been saying on this show.
And yes, we've been saying from day one, and we've been talking about it here, Don and I both on Rumble, about the Uniparty. It really is real. It's not just some made up new catchy phrase on the internet or in government. It's actually something that is happening. And our viewers are very smart. They pay attention to all the facts and the evidence. They're reading and listening and watching shows like mine, like Don Jr.'s, like Bongino's, here on Rumble and Charlie Kirk, and paying attention to what's going on. It's absolutely awful. And just to see that whole scene outside, the courtroom where people were outside waiting to see the president enter and the president leave. And I believe we have Governor Palin back in. Do we have you?
Yeah, I can hear you, Kimberly.
Okay,
can you hear me?
Perfect. That sounds fantastic. So you heard some of my comments. It's surreal just even looking and seeing that this poor man once again had to go to be arraigned for yet another sham indictment.
Yeah, I mean, this is injustice. Never before has any president, any elected official been so condemned for expressing opinion, much less indicted for expressing opinion, as Donald Trump did. Why are people forgetting that his speech on January 6th, it was so clear he was asking people to go ahead and march to the Capitol, but be peaceful. We're the party of law and order. And then the mainstream media, Kimberly, as we've seen, they keep editing that out. That censorship it's absolutely disgusting. It does not bode well for the state of journalism today. And I, having a journalism degree, having learned the who, what, where, when, and why of reporting, it's just atrocious and very, very tragic to me, the state of journalism today, that they would have the gall to edit and censor his comments.
It's unbelievable. And, you know, whether it's Alvin Bragg or these two, you know, indictments from Jack Smith, we've got Georgia forthcoming. It's just, you know, it's one after the next. And I made a comment earlier. It's kind of funny because President Trump, his reaction is, and we've talked to him, is very strong, very focused. He is unwavering in this. He's like, it's an honor because I'm, you know, standing here and I will face this because I'm doing it for you. And then he said, just I need one more indictment to guarantee that I will win the election.
Yeah, well, I hope he knows how much we appreciate his tenacity and his commitment. All of you, though, Kimberly, I mean, the whole family, the arena that you are in, you know, personally, just the humanity of this, I feel for those so personally affected, but also it's kind of expected of our president, though, especially Donald J. Trump, because I think we know now as his character, we'd be disappointed if he wasn't out there fighting for America and standing strong on what he believes in, because we're there with them. Joe Sixpack, hockey moms across the nation, you know, the vast majority, they know that this is injustice.
They really do. People are seeing through it. And we were mentioning at the top of your interview about this Lisa Murkowski character. I'm sorry to tell you, I just cannot stand her. I just think she is such a fraud and a charlatan. I think she's a disgrace to call herself a Republican. I think she's literally just like a double agent or something. She's might as well be like one of the most like liberal Democrats. It's unbelievable. I feel sad for your state because they have to put up with her and use tax dollars to pay her salary when she behaves in this fashion.
It's amazing that she is still representing the great state of Alaska, because we are a deep red state. And no, she had to register as a Republican for years and years in order to win any election. Sure. And well, of course, it was her dad, Senator Frank Murkowski, who gave her the job. Talk about nepotism on steroids back then. And of course, once you're in as an incumbent, she's stayed in as a registered Republican. And yet she's a leader of the uniparty, of those rhinos who have been so against what the Republican Party actually is all about, the planks in our platform. Now, Lisa Murkowski, too, though, guaranteeing, she believes, her future elections, because it was her attorney who ushered in ranked choice voting in Alaska in order to make sure that we have a convoluted, complicated, a legal way, I guess, of stealing an election. That's our new process instead of one man, one vote in Alaska. That is going to help the Democrats continue to stay in office, no matter what she's registered as.
No, absolutely. And just we're with the great governor of Alaska, Sarah Palin, did a phenomenal job. Okay, taxpayers were getting their money's worth when you were in. And just want to say, you never want to miss interviews like this. Like and subscribe to the channel. You'll get notifications when we have big breaking news like this, because you can't count on the other mainstream media to cover this. And I want to talk a little bit about, and a lot of people are writing about this in the live chat. And you can red tab something on the side if you want to highlight, you know, one of your questions. But what is it about the MAGA movement that, you know, has the uniparty and these corrupt politicians and bureaucrats so completely terrified?
Yeah, it's all about money and control of the people. And you just follow the money. Look at the Bidens, that crime family. This is the epitome of follow the money.
It is.
And, you know, politics and everything follows that money. It's not just Democrats who are in charge of what's going on in our country now. It definitely is the uniparty. Too many on the other side of the aisle, on the right side of the aisle. They're participating in this because they too are personally enriched, their families are enriched, and they get to control people, and they get off on that. So no, the MAGA movement is opposite of that, and that's why we so support Donald Trump to get back in there as president, because we know he's not bought and owned by anybody.
No.
He's like the rest of us, where we're
Very
working hard,
independent.
raising families, running businesses, and we don't want any part of that crony capitalism and corruption. Either does he, so he's fighting for us.
It's unbelievable. You're absolutely right.
We got some breaking news again.
Okay, some new breaking news we'll get you to respond to, Governor. Go ahead.
First hearing in this case is officially scheduled August 28th, 10 a.m.
Okay.
in Washington. We'll see all an onslaught of pretrial motions, I'm sure.
Okay, so August 28th at 10 a.m. is going to be the first onslaught of pretrial motions. So that's actually a little bit quicker than we might have, thought. But we'll get to know a little bit more about the case then. But that's the report that's coming in. So we will expect, and let's see if President Trump will have to personally appear or if he can just appear through counsel, which I'm sure he will make a motion to do so. All right. So, this may just be the beginning, okay, of all these witch hunts that are happening while our border, okay, remains porous, open, dangerous with criminals and fentanyl, cartels, sex trafficking, all of this happening. And we're seeing more signs of an escalation with Russia and Ukraine. And all the while we have, a president in Joe Biden who doesn't even know what day it is. And it feels like we have one chance to sort of right and correct this ship in 2024.
That's a good way of putting it. We don't have much time. The trajectory that our country is on, just sliding downhill so fast, we do have to put the brakes on that and get back to what America is founded upon. And that is freedom, and it's the rule of law, and it is fairness, and it's true, sincere, equal justice and equal opportunities for everyone who's ethical and willing to work hard, and we're going the opposite direction, obviously. And yeah, you bring up the border. There's other issues too, that all these distractions going on. Are we forgetting that, say, an issue like energy independence, we're still hat in hand asking enemies to fuel our country, to dig for the minerals and drill for oil, when, like here in Alaska, we have hundreds of trillions of cubic feet of natural gas. We have billions of barrels of oil just waiting for the spigot to be turned on. Biden, first day in office, he locks all that stuff up, and it's continued to be locked up. Does anybody care?
Right.
And I know that the average American cares. Too many feel that they're voiceless, though, that they don't have the advocate there, just not only rooting for us, but working as hard as they can for us. Again, though, I go back to Trump and who it is that he surrounds himself with, those who do get it and those who do understand the gravity of the situation we're in, the distractions, the injustice, all the things that are so surreal and Orwellian. It's Orwellian. Let's talk specifically about President Trump and that January 6th, the statements that he was making, he being indicted for what it was that he was expressing, that kind of control of speech, which is Orwellian. What that leads to is people soon, if they fear that their speech is going to be controlled too, they start doubting what they're thinking. It leads to controlling thoughts because people will be afraid to even think what it is that they want to express and articulate. So they hold back. And, a lot of research shows this, and it shows that it's happened in other countries where tyrants rule. So this Orwellian situation that we're in, Kimberly, it's got to stop.
It really does. And, you make such an important point, because this is censorship. This is infringing on the freedom of speech. It's insane. You can't even just say, well, listen and investigate and see whether there's corruption in the election. You can't make any of these statements. And he was very clear on January 6th about being peaceful and peaceful protests and no violence, all of the above. But they don't care. They just seem to be acting in reckless abandon to rewrite history, to make something that didn't happen, to make it appear like it did. To try in any way to try to, persecute President Trump. And I'm worried as a former prosecutor about restoring the rule of law, because this bureaucracy and this swamp is so entrenched, and they just feel like they've, you know, it's got teeth, and that they're like permanently dug in there. You know, how do you remove the rot? Because you were able to do it in Alaska, and this was, you know, you were definitely a reformer, and you were definitely somebody that, you know, really paved the way for reforming government and excellence in the party.
Well, I was really against corruption too. That's what I was known for. Hopefully that's what I'm still known for. And that again is why I admire Trump, because he's not going to put up with it either. But yeah, what's going on today? Again, people, we don't want them to lose hope though, Kimberly. We need to make sure that we're electing people who will govern as they have campaigned. Too often they don't. They get sucked into the whatever it is in the water there in that bubble of DC, and they stray. So we need to hold them accountable also. Talk about double standards though, Kimberly. Look at the Democrats so aggressively protested outcomes of elections. Look at Hillary Clinton. She was yakking and yakking for years about, oh, it was illegitimate and he's not really our president, and you know, she got robbed. And people, they praise her as a strong woman out there voicing her opinion. Bull crap. She's done so much worse than Trump has done. And the people, we see that, we recognize that. It makes us very, very angry, but also disappointed in those, say, in Congress who are kind of sitting back, allowing it to happen. Why don't the congressmen all get together and get on the steps of the Capitol and state what it is that they sincerely intend to do about all of this? Why don't they unify in this? And anybody who doesn't stand with them, okay, then they showed their true colors, and we'll know what we're dealing with. But they need to get it together, and not just with the purse strings that they hold, Congress, in terms of funding things that can lead to this investigation, which is a witch hunt, but also just collectively being together, united, promising the American people that they're going to do more than just a strongly worded letter against the Democrats and the rhinos who are doing this.
Yeah, you know, let's talk a little bit before we have to actually go about the Republican primary. You know, Trump is up some 40 points in some of these polls. Is the Republican primary over in your mind? I mean, it's such a commanding lead that he has. You know, what's your message to the other candidates?
Yeah, it was over before it began, because we've never, the majority of Republicans have never lost trust and support for Trump. So those jumping in there, you know, they're doing it for attention and for some personal gain and gunning for positions in the future. Unfortunately, they're wasting resources. And one of those resources is time, which is a person's most valuable resource. You know, we have to talk about these candidates who are at 1 or 2% in the polls. There's no way on God's green earth that they'll ever win, but they're sucking up time, and there are limited donations and contributions too into the political arena.
We focus on the general election. And real quick, last parting thought here. There is still a lot of discussion about whether or not Biden will be replaced in 2024. Reportedly, Barack Obama even warned Biden about Trump's strength. But at the same time, he pretty much gives the Democrats and the swamp, you know, exactly what they want, and they control them. What do you think is going to happen here?
Well, I do think he's going to be replaced, even though, yeah, he's just the, you know, the perfect puppet for them. And I've said all along, I think it's going to be Michelle Obama. However, there's this dude in California who's kind of gaining some ground. Can't even remember his name right now, Kimberly. But no, I think Biden, he's not in it for the long haul.
Yeah, that's the thing. So, I mean, let's read the writing on the wall here. But Trump's in it for the long haul. Doesn't matter how many indictments, doesn't matter how many arraignments, doesn't matter how many trials he has to do. But all right, well, it's always a pleasure to have you. We love a good, fierce female warrior out there every single day. Always a pleasure to have you with us. Former governor of the great state of Alaska, Sarah Palin. Thank you, sweetheart.
Thank you so much.
All right, God bless. And my closing remarks just ahead, but I also want to thank another amazing sponsor. So be sure to check out, please, Patriot Mobile, because with Patriot Mobile, you put America first with every call, all while getting the same nationwide coverage as major carriers. Patriot Mobile provides you dependable wireless service at an affordable price, putting your dollars into action and supporting freedom-loving values. They donate a portion of every dollar to support groups that fight for the First Amendment, fight for the right to bear arms, the sanctity of life, and protecting our brave police and first responders. Patriot Mobile, mobilizing freedom and supporting you. For free activation, please go to patriotmobile.com/KG, patriotmobile.com/KG. And in closing tonight, Ronald Reagan famously said that freedom is only one generation away from extinction. But the attacks we're seeing against our rule of law and our separation of powers makes it very clear that it can happen even quicker than a generation. In just a few short years under the Biden regime, we're seeing the country driven off a cliff. And rather than do something to actually help the country, Democrats would rather just throw their political opponents in jail. Throw them in jail, throw away the key. It's dangerous, it is disgraceful, and beyond the pale. But for all of us MAGA patriots, we must face this reality and proceed accordingly. That means staying engaged, voting out every single swamp monster we can, get rid of the rhinos, get rid of the uniparty people, demanding that our state attorney generals and congressional investigators probe every corner of the Democrats' corruption. And of course, going all in for re-election of Donald Trump on November 7th, 2024. Dark days are upon us indeed, but there's still hope for a brighter day if we stick together, if we stand strong, be unbreakable, and if we do what's right. And until that day, and for every day in between, remember that you have a home right here on this show and on Rumble, where we reject the false narrative and we always seek the truth. So be sure to like and subscribe to my channel at Kimberly Guilfoyle and Donald Trump Jr.'s channel. Turn on notifications, download the Rumble app, like and subscribe, and tell all your friends so they know exactly where to find us. And also be sure to follow me across all platforms. Twitter, which is now called X, it's like a Kanye thing or something, right? Formerly known as, I don't know, can't keep up. Truth Social, Facebook, and on Instagram. I hope you all have a wonderful and blessed evening. Keep President Trump in your prayers and be looking forward to a fabulous, huge show with Donald Trump Jr. at 6 p.m. Eastern, right here on Rumble. You don't want to miss it. You're going to hear what he has to say about what they are doing to his father. Have a wonderful evening.